Hello everyone, my name is Tejas, and today I'll be installing this. The new Western Digital SN550 NVMe M.2 SSD with up to 2400 megabytes per second read-write speeds and a capacity of 500 gigabytes utilizing the new 3D NAND technology and a 5-year warranty. This thing is a pretty good package to buy for only $50. But wait, that was a lot of words and acronyms and numbers and all. So what does it all mean? Well, let's take a quick rewind and I'll show you the definitions of each of these terms. So, let's go over it in parts. So WD stands for Western Digital, which is a company who specializes in storage devices and mediums. SN550 is the model number. This drive has a total capacity of 500 gigabytes. To put this in perspective, a typical Blu-ray movie around 2 hours is around 25 gigabytes. NVMe stands for Non-Volatile Memory Express, but that's a video for another day. M.2 is the port where you install this drive. It's a fairly newer type of port. It's actually I believe it's the newest. And SSD, well, what is an SSD? So normally in computers there are 3 types of drives. But what's a drive? The drive is basically what your computer uses to store data. So the first type of drive is the hard disk drive. We abbreviate this one as HDD. It's best for mass storage since it's cheap yet reliable, but it's not meant for much consumer use since it's very slow to read and write data. The next type of drive is the solid state drive. We abbreviate this as SSD. Now these SSDs actually have 2 types. You have the SATA SSD and the M.2 SSD. This compares to the hard drives where they just use SATA. Now these come with super fast and high-speed storage. They're best for consumer use, but they only come in low capacities since the prices are pretty expensive. They are getting cheaper in this new year, but mass storage is not very realistic yet and doesn't exactly have a use in the companies yet. So it's so much cheaper to have mass hard drive storage rather than having SSD storage. The last type of drive is the solid-state hybrid drive. We abbreviate this one as SSHD. By its name, you can probably tell that it is a blend between the SSD and the HDD, so you get the best of both worlds. You get the capacity of a hard drive paired with the quick response time of an SSD. It is somewhat cheap. It's in the middle of the hard drive and SSD's prices, obviously, because it's a blend, but it used to have quite the market since SSDs were quite expensive, but now it's not really being used since the SSDs at the lower capacities are getting much cheaper, and of course it still uses a hard drive for the mass storage, so there's not much of a performance increase when using this drive compared to your regular hard drive. Now, what's the difference between the 3 and why are SSDs typically the best? Well, unlike hard drives which store their data on disks using magnetic drives, SSDs store their data electronically on flash chips, the storage device found on USB drives, which is much more readily available for any program to use. Since computers are all electronic nowadays, it's much easier to just access electronic data rather than having to convert magnetic data into electronic data. Want to know what drive your computer has? It's simple. If you're using Windows, simply run the disk defragmenter tool. Now you're not going to actually be doing any defragmenting, but this tool just states whether the drive is a hard drive or an SSD. If you're on a Mac, just look at the top left corner, hit the Apple icon, then click About this Mac, then click the huge button called System Report, and then navigate to the Storage tab. There you will be able to see if it is an Apple HDD or an Apple SSD. Apple doesn't really make solid-state hybrid drives anyway. For Linux, it's a little bit more complicated, but for anyone that uses Linux, you know that the terminal is pretty much your best friend. So open up terminal and type in this command, lsblk-o name, rota, and click enter. You can see by the 1s and 0s here which drives I'm currently using. So 0 means non-rotary and 1 means rotary. So rotary just means a drive that uses rotating parts, such as a hard drive or a CD drive. And a non-rotary is obviously a drive that does not use rotating parts, such as an SSD or a USB drive. It's easier for me since my drive is an NVMe, so Linux sees that and displays it as an NVMe. Before tinkering with your computer, make sure to shut it down, unplug all the peripherals, and make sure to turn the power switch to the off position and then unplug the power cable. Alright, so here we are. This is my desktop computer. I've been using this for about 3 years. It's where I edit my videos, play games, and do work and all of that. The specs are on the screen right now, if you're interested in that. So before you start this, make sure to consult your computer or motherboard's manual to see if you have a compatible M.2 slot. If you bought your computer from a retailer, this installation might be difficult since you will probably be missing some proprietary hardware to install this M.2 SSD. But if you built your computer like I did and have your motherboard box with the screws ready, then you are good to go. The first thing you want to do is open up the side panels. Remove the 2 thumb screws, here and here. Next, once the thumb screws are removed, you can easily pop the side panel open. Place the side panel somewhere safe so that it doesn't get damaged during the installation process. My case includes a dual SSD tray that houses 2 2.5-inch drives, so I'll need to remove that first with the 4 screws here, 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 and here. Now that the 4 screws are out, I can easily remove the tray and set it off to the side, exposing the graphics card. To successfully remove the graphics card, we need to unplug the power cord, remove these 2 screws, and unlatch the PCIe lock at the bottom. If your computer does not include a graphics card, you can skip to the M.2 installation. For the power plug, simply release the locking tab and pull it out. It will require a good amount of force. If your graphics card does not require a power plug, skip to the next step. Next, remove these 2 screws that are securing the graphics card to the case. Stash these screws somewhere safe so that you won't lose them, and keep them organized since each screw is a different type. The next step to removing your graphics card is to push and release the latch at the bottom. There will be an audible click to let you know that the latch has been released. Then pull the graphics card out. This might also take some force. Locate the M.2 slot on your motherboard. If yours is set up like mine is, the M.2 slot is right underneath the graphics card slot. Find and open up the motherboard box. If the motherboard has an M.2 slot, it should have come with an M.2 standoff with its screw. The time has now come to install the new M.2 SSD. First, install the M.2 standoff onto the motherboard at the correct length. Most M.2 SSDs are on the longest form factor, so install the standoff in the farthest slot. Now it's time to slot in the new SSD. Line up the notch on the SSD with the notch on the slot and push it in at an angle, and it should slot in quite easily. Try to apply as little force as possible. To secure the SSD, retrieve the screw from the M.2 standoff and screw it back into the standoff, making sure that the SSD does not pop back up. If the SSD pops back up, simply reorient it and make sure that the standoff is right underneath and then screw it in. Now that the SSD is installed, we can now reassemble the PC. Firstly, move the cables out of the way to install the graphics card back into place. If you do not have a graphics card, skip to the next step. Make sure to line up the slot properly with both notches in the right place. The latch should line up with the recessed plastic piece. Apply as little force as possible to avoid breaking the card, and make sure that it goes in straight at no angle. Once installed, the locking latch will pop into place audibly. Next, secure the card in with the 2 screws that you pulled out earlier. Next, plug in the power cord. If you don't need power cords, you can skip this step. Once finished, I would recommend flicking or pushing your fans, making them spin, to make sure that no wires are in the way to avoid any unpleasant sounds when you power your PC back up. Now for my setup, I still need to secure the SSD tray back into place, so I'll slot it in, and then I'll secure it with the 4 screws here, 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 and here. And the final step is to retrieve the side panels that you stowed earlier and secure it to the side of the case using the thumb screws. Secure the side panel using the 2 thumb screws here and here. Now it's time for the boot ups. So I'm going to put the hard drive on the left side and the SSD on the right side, and we're going to compare the boot up times. As you can see, the SSD is a lot quicker to respond than the hard drive and load all of the Windows files into memory. I hope this has been an informative experience for you all. Let me know down in the comments if you like this new style of video or this new style of content, and also let me know if you want to see more of these by slapping like and hitting that subscribe button. Thank you so much for watching, stay safe, and have fun.